There's no guarantee that the vaccine is actually going to be effective. As you well know, because we've discussed this many times in the past, that you can have everything you think that's in place and you don't induce the kind of immune response that turns out to be protective and durably protective. The other thing that's an unknown that's of concern is that do you get an enhancement effect? Namely, there have been a number of vaccines, 2 in particular, dengue and respiratory syncytial virus, when the vaccine induces a suboptimal response, and when a person gets exposed, they actually have an enhanced pathogenesis of the disease. Those are the 2 major unknowns. Putting all those things together, Senator Burr, I still feel cautiously optimistic.
The news has reported that the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines are 95% effective. Does this mean that if I get the vaccine, I won't get infected with the SARS-CoV-2 virus?
That means that there's a 95% chance that you will not get symptomatic infection, namely that you won't get infected to the point that you get symptoms. But we are unsure right now what the protection is against infection.
The various shots that people are getting now cover that. You're okay. You're not going to get COVID if you have these vaccinations.
You could get vaccinated, get exposed, get infected, not know it because the vaccine is protecting you against symptoms, but that you could have virus in your nasopharynx, which is the reason why we say until we prove that the vaccine prevents transmission, that people who are vaccinated should wear a mask when they're near people who might be vulnerable to infection.
When you look at the level of virus in the nasopharynx of a vaccinated person who gets a breakthrough infection with Delta, it is exactly the same as the level of virus in an unvaccinated person who's infected. That's the problem. Right now, we have 100 million people in the United States who are eligible, who are not getting vaccinated. That's the problem.
Does the vaccine protect against Delta? And if it does, why are people worried?
Well, the situation is understandably a bit complicated. The original clinical trials that got us the vaccines that we had, take, for example, the mRNAs, they were 94 to 95% protective against clinically recognizable disease. What has happened with Delta is that protection has gone down. The vaccines are still doing what you originally want them to do, to keep you out of the hospital, to prevent you from getting seriously ill. We know now that vaccinated people, where you get a breakthrough that is unusual, but it does occur, that you can then transmit it to someone else. So it takes on the extra added issue of transmissibility. So the outbreak can be propagated, which leads to the CDC's modifying the guidelines of saying, even though you are vaccinated, when you are in a public place in an area of the country that has a high degree of virus, such as in the red and orange zones, you should still wear a mask indoors. I know that sounds confusing, but that's what's happened. What's changed, Fareed, is the virus has changed.
Does that mean that the vaccine, while still effective, might have a shorter time span? I saw that Moderna is now saying maybe it's 6 months protection, where people had previously thought it was maybe more like a year.
Well, the Moderna data that just came out, they only looked up to 6 months. Pfizer is reporting, as we all know, that they're starting to see a diminution in the durability of the protection. You follow it in real time, and when you get below a certain threshold, that triggers a recommendation to get a booster.
It is very confusing and complicated for people. You're now asking people to know whether the area they are in is high risk or low risk. How are they supposed to do that? And do you understand that people feel as though they were once told to wear masks, they were then told not to. Now they're being told if you're in New York, it's okay not to wear it, but if you're in Florida, you must wear it. Is that just the reality of the science?
It is the reality, Fareed, and you make a very good point. There's no getting away from it. When guidelines change, they change because the virus dynamics is changing. And that's the thing that people need to understand, that the CDC recommendations were changed because we were dealing with a much different virus.
And that's all I have to say about that.